The second part of the lecture on IT outsourcing is going to focus on what can be outsourced, what should not be outsourced, the interaction between how much labor you need, the intensity of labor and business IT interaction requirements, the kind of chain of responsibility in outsourced projects. Let's start with recognizing what can be outsourced. IT outsourcing decisions should be made one project at a time. So in the past, there was wholesale IT outsourcing, which was prevalent until the 2010s. IT outsourcing contracts have increasingly become shorter and narrower in scope. Firms choose to outsource for two reasons: to access IT skills that their in-house IT unit does not have, or that the vendor can do the same job at lower cost than your in-house IT unit. Both of these motivations appear, kind of reasonable, but it can create really huge problems from which your firm can struggle to get itself out of. The initial contributions of non-IT managers to their IT sourcing decisions is recognizing which IT projects which should never be outsourced. So first is the mission criticality and differentiation potential. So are your projects mission critical, and is it a strategic competitive differentiator, or is it an operational necessity? These are aspects which need to be recognized before an outsourcing decision is made. If it's mission critical, it actually affects a primary activity. If this is a competitive differentiator, but it's not mission critical, we would still insource it because it's competitive differentiator. It prevents imitation, and then latent needs which are generated would be important. Of course, if it's mission critical, you definitely don't want to outsource it. Embedded software code that functions inside a piece of hardware like a watch or TV or car should not be outsourced. If it's a pure operational necessity and it's not mission critical, you can outsource that. I mean, this is essentially a good point where if somebody can do this cheaper, you have skills that you don't have, it's not a competitive differentiator, this could be outsourced. If it's an operational necessity but it is mission critical, then it's better to concurrently source this. And this strengthens your in-house skills. It needs to have enforceable performance guarantees, and that we can kind of concurrently source that. Okay. The second aspect is the interaction between how much interaction you need between IT managers and the business line functions, and the labor intensity. How labor intensive is this project? So we have here business IT interaction requirements, which is low or high, and labor intensity, which is low or high or low. And when there is very little interaction needed between business and IT, it's low, and high labor intensity, that's an ideal outsourcing project. If there is low interaction but you need low labor intensity, only if you have no in-house skill sets, you outsource specifically for expertise. If your interactions is high, labor intensity is low, you should insource it because your IT department can do it. And finally, if there's a lot of IT business interactions but high labor requirement, this is perfect for tapered outsourcing, where your IT department does part of the job, and before handing out to the vendor, especially up to the design stage, so that the blueprints are given to the vendor, and all the vendor does is build it around. So if you look at the chain of responsibility in IT outsourcing, this ensures two things. One, what formal controls IT unit needs to have on the vendors. So here are output metrics that reward or penalize vendors for meeting predefined targets. Vendor outputs need to be measurable and specifiable for project requirements. And process control dictate methods a vendor should follow. And this works only when your technical expertise in the project domain is superior to your vendor. We have CMM, the capability maturity model ratings from 1 to 5, 1 being the worst and 5 being the best. Essentially is evaluated, firms are evaluated based on the software, US-based Software Engineering Institute. CMM ratings are like eBay seller ratings, comparable vendors, comparable across vendors, generally trustworthy. A vendor with higher CMM rating is likely to charge more for the same project. Only 7% of CMM rated IT organizations worldwide have a level 5. However, just like eBay seller, well-rated eBay seller can fail to deliver, using a higher CMM rated vendor does not guarantee a successful project. Your IT unit should triangulate ratings with referral checks from other firms in your own industry, in your own home country. So here is the chain of responsibility. Your IT unit works with the line functions to meet the business objectives, which is the responsibility of the line functions, technical specification, and the vendor's client is your IT unit. So here are some interesting data on outsourcing destinations from around the world. It kind of based on cost here versus supply quality, and here's the baseline of United States. As you can see, Israel is high in cost and high in quality. Canada again high in cost, high in quality. Ireland has higher cost, comparatively less quality, and this is why India is so popular. It's low in cost and pretty much high in quality. China is working itself towards, right now it's a low cost, low quality provider, but it's trying to move up. Philippines is another one which is a low cost with a moderate quality setup. Another advantage India has also is that it's about 10.5 hours behind the United States. So when we look at concurrent sourcing, where people in India can work in the night when it's night at the United States, and then hand over that project during the day. So there are a lot of captive units in India, especially because of its geographical location also. So there are 5 considerations when you look at what you're going to outsource. Time zone, is it an overlapping time zone or follow the sun spacing preferable? And that depends upon the kind of project and the kind of interaction needed. The skill sets, you got to match the skill sets in the region for what project. So for example, Russia and Israel are high set of skills for embedded into the hardware, embedded programming, whereas Canada, India, and Ireland, custom developed business applications, they have higher skill sets there. What about the country profile? Is it politically stable? How many vendors exist? Who's already outsourcing there? Culture and language differences are important because there's a lot of interaction. And also, it's important to look at legal sophistication. What's the track record for intellectual property protection? What are legal enforcement of contract issues? So these are all the considerations you need to look at when you decide to outsource. So to summarize, the key takeaways are IT sourcing is a strategic decision. Obvious cost alone should never solely drive the decision about whether you will do your custom IT development in-house or outside. IT outsourcing usually fails because of challenges in integrating the outsourced project with your firm's existing ID, or because the wrong system gets delivered. IT sourcing takes many forms. Can be in-house development, can be done by your IT unit or a captive foreign unit, outsourcing by a domestic or foreign vendor, or by outside community. There are some IT projects which should never be outsourced. Mission critical, competitively differentiating, or need intense business IT interaction. IT outsourcing entails trade-offs, which concurrent and tapered outsourcing can mitigate. And outsourcing lengthens the chain of responsibility, and IT unit accountable still to non-IT managers for business results. And finally, don't let outsourcing be irreversible, and concurrent sourcing option prevents that from becoming irreversible. With this, we finish chapter 7, and that's it for